Yeah, definitely.
Okay, now tell us about this next clip. And again, if people want to watch the full video, they can go to GoldenGateMinutemen.org or the story on PrisonPlanet.com. Obama supporter Stark, feds can do anything. I mean, this is an amazing video. Tell us about this video we're about to play.
This video was shot at the last Stark Town Hall meeting, which was the Saturday before last. And it was quite a different story from the other one. A lot of people showed up there who were really ticked off at Stark, and because the first video went viral on YouTube. And the clip that you're going to show right now is a woman that was sitting directly behind me, and she just has some very, some very quick points at Stark, and Stark basically said what he's about to say here. It was amazing.
She's enlightened. She's powerful. She's informed. She's got the spirit that will save this republic, and I salute this lady. Do we know her name?
Yes, her name is Kimberly.
Kimberly's just wonderful, and she lays it out. This is slavery. That's what collectivism is. I'm not asking for free health care. I'm not asking, I want to be left alone, but I've got to pay for the entire third world populations pouring in. No. And I have a right to say no to this. I'm not their slave. Here it is.
That health care is now a right rather than a privilege because of legislation that passed earlier this year. But such a right is actually beyond the power of the federal government to confer. And this is because, wait, let me finish, because this is because it necessarily infringes the inalienable rights of other people. And the reason I say this is because someone, in order to get health care services, those services have to be rendered by somebody else, using their time, their energy, their knowledge, and their labor. And this means that if any of us want health care and we have a right to it, then we can only have, then we necessarily have the right to compel others to give us, to provide those services or to pay for them for us. And my question, I have a two-part question, and the first one is, how can legislation such as this be constitutional when it seems to be in direct conflict with the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery? That's the first thing. And the second thing is, if this legislation is constitutional, what limitations are there on the federal government's ability to tell us how to run our private lives?
I think that there are very few constitutional limits that would prevent the federal government from rules that could affect your private life. Now, the basis for that would be, how does it affect other people?
So the Constitution specifically enumerates certain powers to the federal government and leaves all other authority to the states. So the Constitution, or the people, so the Constitution is very limited in what it can do, sir. And it specifically prohibits slavery. And when you tell somebody you have a right to get a service from another, that's essentially saying you get to make that person do something for you. And sir, that is a form of slavery. So my question is, how can this law be constitutional? But more importantly than that, if they can do this, what can't they? Is your question, they can do it? Is your answer that they can do anything?
The federal government, yes, can do most anything in this country.
Good pause. Back it up 10 seconds. I mean, he looks like he's sitting on a commode right there. And I hate to use childlike analogies, but literally, he's like a swollen big baby, just full of arrogance. And he can do most anything he wants. The federal government is your God. And we see more and more of them. It's like that congressman out of Illinois a few months ago saying, I don't like the Constitution. I don't care about the Constitution. I'll do whatever I want. And so they'll spy on you without warrants. They'll raise taxes. They'll make you pay for health care. I mean, this is what tyranny is. Let's play that part one more time and then get our guest who shot the video to comment on it. Here he is saying the federal government can do most anything it wants. And it is. It is doing whatever it wants. It is saying, hey, you're not going to stop illegal aliens that are out killing cops and citizens because they work for us, the federal government. They're our muscle to take over this country. Here it is.
Is your question they can do it? Is your answer that they can do anything?
The federal government, yes, can do most anything in this country.
You, sir, and people that think like you are destroying this nation.
And he just nods his head arrogantly. He likes it. He's like, yes, I do. Unbelievable.
I'm sure glad you're here to say that. Makes me feel very comfortable.
Man, I tell you, I mean, I have never seen anything like that. They're saying, you're destroying America. And he goes, yeah, I am. Just totally smug, enjoying what he's doing. He can do anything he wants to you. But the good news is these arrogant creatures are now right out in the open. You know, Hillary Clinton's daughter marries this Goldman Sachs guy whose daddy's in prison, who's a crook with the Clintons. And you got Madoff, and you got these Kinley types. They're a bunch of thug crooks. And if you stand up to them, they say, you're a racist. Well, you know what? Or you want to murder people. Or who are you going to murder today? Imagine, you get some people asking questions. He says, who are you going to murder today? Incredible. Steve-Kemp, andi-jacobs. I mean, what can you say about that?
Sandi, you want to take it?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, that statement didn't go over too good with the audience, I got to say. It's pretty amazing, and he got called on it, and it's out there now. And I just would like to tell people who are listening to this, if you're still behind your computer or behind your radio or your TV, you need to get out there. I mean, it's just me with a camera and YouTube. You've got the tools available to get this kind of information out there. If there was not a camera at that meeting, and I did not put it on YouTube, it wouldn't be known.
And that's a good point. You know, I went to the State House for the Second Amendment meeting, caught bribery going on, made national news. You know, government is so corrupt that if you go anywhere, they're just... I mean, a few months ago, he says there is no border problem, and it went nationwide. He looks like a fool, and his approval rating dropped. You go to another meeting, he says, I can do whatever I want. The government basically rules you, and yes, I'm destroying America. I mean, he just can't help it. He can't help it. And if people just stand up and confront him, I mean, your video has conservatively, with all the different versions out there, probably been seen 1 million times. This will be seen more than 1 million. Then it was aired on national news with millions seeing it. You're just a few people taking action, showing these slime bags for what they are. People say, well, what's the solution to tyranny? Get out there and engage it, and all of us working together, just showing what these people are. The average person in San Francisco doesn't know who their state rep is, or their federal rep is, or who their mayor is, or doesn't know what their voting record is. By just looking at these people, everyone will then face the fact of what slime bags they are, and it's game over. More comments on that.
Sure, you know, I mean, people just look at Stark like, well, why waste my time calling him? You know, I mean, I've seen what he does. But you know what? Silence is consent, and I'm not willing to consent to anything he puts forward. Because, you know, he'll just go along with gutting everything, like the 287G program or E-Verify. I mean, our poor kids are just being laden with debt. And I'm not willing to consent.
Well, what are they going to do? You know, I've got a big stack here from yesterday on the economy with mainstream news admitting we never left the recession. We're in a depression. A big part of it is the illegal aliens and the big banks together who are teamed up. What are they going to do when everything totally collapses?
That's a good point. We don't know, and we don't want to find out. So that's why we're trying to stop all this stuff. But they just... It reminds me it reminds me of you're in a car, you're driving, you got the pedal to the metal, and you're heading for a brick wall, which is what we were doing, you know, for the last decade or so. You hit the wall, the airbags go off, you realize you didn't get killed, you jump back into another car, and you floor it. It's crazy.
Well, more than that, the airbag saves you, and then you yell racist, racist, racist at the airbag, and then stab it. And then you go get in another car and stab the airbag before you crash into the next brick wall.
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, we as citizens have got to do something to stop this, and it's to the point where it's not unstoppable. But these people like Stark are just so arrogant; they've got control over everything, or so they think. And yeah, we need to get out there and get on the streets. I mean, we've been doing this for years. The Minutemen little counter protests and whatnot. Now with the Tea Party movement and a lot of other people starting, and the recession crash. People are waking up. They're really saying, you know what, I've been hearing about this stuff for years. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and they just sort of ignored it. But now you can't. It's in your face, and you got to get out there and do something.
I agree, and we have a lot of great listeners in Central California. We have a few great affiliates just south of you. That one of them goes into San Francisco. And I noticed another website up there, not just goldengateminutemen.org, but the other one, what's the address? How do people get involved? How do they support you? How do they get on the ground so that your numbers grow?
Well, what they need to do is they can contact us to get involved with us locally here. And there's a number of Tea Party organizations, and every Tea Partier I have talked to in this area supports the Minutemen and what we're doing here, the illegal immigration.
Sure, but I saw two different URLs. What's the other URL that's on the video?
Oh, on the video, that's the Bay Area Patriots, the BayAreaPatriots.com. It got covered up by the logo.
Okay, and is that you guys?
No, that is actually the Tea Party that's based out of Marin County, San Francisco, and a great bunch of people, which we're also involved with.
Well, that's awesome. We need to get people in there supporting them as well. I want to come back and take some phone calls with you guys. But, folks, this is happening everywhere. The government, the big banks, they're funding the illegals. They're arrogant. They're trying to intimidate us to shut up. But we're not going to be intimidated. We're going to win this thing. Stay with us.